Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, all the beautiful people in here. We are joined to have another phenomenal interview with some phenomenal guests. My name is ATX Crypto. We do primarily discuss the rich hard ecosystem of HEX, PulseChain, and PulseX. And again, today we have two amazing guests with us. The first person is a cryptocurrency enthusiast, educator, and content creator, and has been involved in the crypto space since 2017. He's a prominent figure in the HEX ecosystem and the PulseChain ecosystem, and a cryptocurrency he also promotes a HEX ecosystem, which is a cryptocurrency which earns yield similar to a certificate of deposit, but on the blockchain. He does have newsletters for current events and offers seasonality of markets and cycles analysis to help everyone gain a better understanding of the overall markets and sectors. And he also has a whole YouTube channel where he shares all of his insights and opinions on various topics related to crypto technology and the global economy. Please help me welcome Axis Alive. How you doing, brother?
Yo, dude, what's going on? Thanks for having me on. This is our first actual official. We've been on together, but it wasn't on official on one of your channels. So I appreciate you for inviting me on, man. I'm looking forward to this. Of course, I've been watching your content for a while now, so I'm excited to finally duke it out and see where we land on the craziness that's going on with RH ecosystem.
There's some craziness for sure, but I would say opportunity as well.
Oh, crazy! Isn't that two sides of the same coin?
If you're involved in cryptocurrency, yes, it is.
I mean, if it's flat and boring, well, go play stocks or something. I don't know.
Exactly. I'm not looking for a 2x in 20 years. I'm looking for a 2x in a couple days, right? But let me bring on our second guest as well, who is another HEX enthusiast and analyst. He's an educator who understands the mechanics and economics for HEX. He's been in since the launch of HEX in 2019. He developed a deep understanding, of course, of the economics and potential, and he runs a website called hexfire.io, where he offers a variety of tools and resources for HEX users, such as charts, calculators, guides, and he also offers newsletters as well. He also has a YouTube channel where he does interview other HEX influencers, shares his insights and predictions, and educates newcomers about the benefits of HEX. Please help me welcome ChrispyMan. How you doing, brother?
Hey now. How are you?
Hey, buddy? What's up? Good to see y'all too, man. I'm glad to be on. We've done a couple of streams in the past, I believe, with myself and ChrispyMan through Ben Dubard's channel, and again, Access. We may have been on briefly on a few, but now this is actually the full one where we get to have a full-on conversation between each other. So, guys, before we get started, be sure to follow these guys on all their socials. They are listed on the screen as well. Like, share, subscribe, and get this content out. Let everyone know that the stream is happening. So if you are curious as to what's been going on in the HEX, PulseChain, PulseX ecosystem, we're about to be diving in on some fun stuff today. So we're going to be talking about their journey into crypto space, their passion, their vision for HEX, their analysis, their strategies for maximizing returns, and overall the investing and saving strategy to implement with our ecosystem. So again, please enjoy this conversation with Axis Alive and ChrispyMan.
You don't know, man. You don't know.
You don't know. Yeah,
my
co-host for Pulse Nation.
I can't do Westcott, man.
I can't either, brother. I can't either. I'm gonna get one of those little stream decks and just plug in that little sound effect for them. There's gonna be there's gonna be like the one for you don't know, and then also the embarrassed one, so I'll get the stream deck going, but we'll get it going here in a second. Do y'all have stream decks, by the way? I'm just curious.
No,
I've got
one of those Elgato stream decks that you just push the button and it does stuff.
Yeah, I got a box here. I just didn't load it up. You can load it up here too on StreamYard, right? Do your own clips and click. So nice. I once in a while I'll give myself a hey now.
So let's get started with some fun questions on this, Access. I know, obviously, we can talk about the PulseX ecosystem, PulseChain ecosystem, and HEX ecosystem, but I really want to get to know y'all a little bit better, and then we'll dive into some of the mechanics behind all that happening as well. So if you don't mind, Access, what inspired you to actually get into the crypto space and start mining crypto back in 2017?
Yeah, so the thought of being able to print money legally was a pretty exciting prospect, right? So I remember, some of the Hexicans, if they're listening in, they've probably heard this story before, but it's a good story. So
it is. I
mean, you go back.
There's a lot of new
enough,
people in the ecosystem too, so it's good to hear it again.
That's true. So we'll speak to that. So, there's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I found myself watching this video called Zeitgeist. I don't know if anyone's ever heard this documentary called Zeitgeist, but it basically did a deep dive on the banking system and kind of like the nuts and bolts of how it worked, how fractional reserve lending worked. And yeah, I guess I walked away from that documentary being really concerned with the health of the financial sector and kind of just sick of the thought of like the oppression that comes from like a fiat money system where your currency is debased and you're taxed out the wazoo and you continue to give more and more hours of your life away to stay relevant in a system. And so I thought, finding out about crypto mining there in 2017, this is going ahead 6 years later, that might have been even a decade later. Wow. Might have been one of those things where it was like, okay, there is actually a potential way out here where we can as citizens legally print money into existence. And so it started there with just the fascination and the idea of it. And then it quickly turned into like, all right, I'm going to build out a data center. I teamed up with one of my buddies. I was like, we're going to build this thing out, get all the networking done, going to get a bunch of AMP miners, some GPUs to do some Ethereum mining. And fast forward 2 years and we had it up and running. Originally I was like, oh, what if you harness like renewable energy? That would be cool because now you're mitigating a lot of the costs associated with those negative externalities that you always hear about with Bitcoin mining and Ethereum mining at the time.
Right.
And so it would be closer to money printing with no overhead. And like that was the goal, and that's every miner's goal, is to bring production costs near zero if possible. Get your debt paid or get your equipment paid off, and then profit in the bull run. And so I did that for.
Sounds very similar to what we're trying to do now.
And I mean that's why the renaming hex mining, staking into hex mining is sort of relevant here, is because, I didn't stay in the mining game for multiple cycles because the gain did not outweigh the cost in my mind. And if I was going to go that route, I would have had to go like 10x bigger, and I would have to find opportunities in maybe natural gas or like biogas, some form of that, which was more relevant in my area,
right?
In order to really harness that like near zero electricity cost. But then in 2019, Hex launched, and it was the first potential I saw for a currency that would inflate, but instead of putting all this time, effort, and energy and finances into the money creation process, you just would buy your initial bag and then you'd stake it up, and it would start earning for you. And the longer you stayed committed, you look into the nuts and bolts of that, how that hex contract works at the core. It would seem to me to be a superior system in almost every way to Bitcoin mining. And so that's how I landed on Hex, and I sold the mining facility at the $64,000 top on Bitcoin. I got way more than I put into it, and I feel bad for the guys that bought it because, they were a bunch of Ethereum miners, and they, what did that mean? They got to mine for like another year before Ethereum guys shut them down. So it is what it is. There, in crypto, there's always going to be winners and losers like anything. But in the Hex game, there's definitely a lot more winners as long as you last longer than the next guy. So that's basically where we're at now in the cycle. And I want the best for everybody. So I'm out here trying to educate and help people like compound their returns to get more and more size in the Hex and Pulse ecosystem.
That sounds like a journey of a crazy adventure, if you will. Was it you and a partner who went in on the mining rigs, and y'all were able to create a business essentially almost, and split the profit when you sold? Is that, or did you take over and
Yeah, so I actually took over about before we even had the building brought up. Like we went into it with the planning stages together, and then working with friends can be a challenge, and that's a whole other lesson I learned in business. I've learned a lot of business lessons in this, right? Right. And so what you learn is that like money changes people and certain outcomes change people. And there's always this give and this take of like, you know, I'm putting in more than you are, or you're not putting in enough. So I just decided, you know, I'm going to go off and do it on my own. And, you know, against the grain, against everyone's expectations, we made it work, man. It was tough during 2019 when the price was up and down, but that following year, everything kind of came together.
Right. Well, I'm glad you kind of got to stick it out, and it's always good when you get to learn a new field, if you will. And I'm sure that helped quite a bit when you got to see how HEX actually worked. And I know ChrispyMan's very familiar with the HEX contract as well, being in on the early stages. So flipping over to ChrispyMan on this one, what was the first exposure to crypto for you, and how did it change your perspective on money and finance?
Yeah. Hey, my story is real similar to Axis. You know, I saw all this stuff about mining, right? And the similarity ends there, right? So
passive income, baby. That's the draw.
Right? Like
passive income.
I was like, I'm going to get rich, but no, you know, I was like,
I mean, it worked for like 3 months, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, it ended up happening. What ended up happening is I never, you know, I started looking at crypto back when it first came out, you know, when the white paper came out. I've told this story a bunch of times, but I missed like 3 opportunities, you know, to get into Bitcoin early, right up to the one where I needed to put $1,000 cash in an envelope and mail it to Canada. Right. But it's funny, the FUD back then was really heavy, just like it is now, in a lot of different ways. And I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't take the time to go figure it out. Right. So I wasn't going to go, you know, like I didn't click the EXE, you know. I didn't go click the app, which, you know, I could have been sitting there until the faucets went away. I could have been sitting there pushing the button and getting free Bitcoin, right? I mean, I knew enough to do that, but like I said, FUD was heavy. But I didn't really start getting in until I got fed up with the fact that everybody else seemed to have gotten rich. Everyone else seemed to have gotten rich, and of course, I know better now. But 2017, I started dabbling with XRP and Tezos and taking a position in Bitcoin. And at the time, I was kind of like a Bitcoin maxi, I guess, because that's how you entered the system back then.
For sure.
Know, you had to believe in something first, and Bitcoin was definitely first on the list. But then I learned about ETH, alts, all that kind of stuff, and then the rest is history. Once HEX started to launch, right? Because that truly was my connection. Because what I was looking to do is augment my passive income, you know, my future passive income at that point, with money printers, right? Which is kind of like I wanted to be able to do that with mining, and I didn't need miners. I just need to go into HEX, buy HEX, and you know, put it into stakes.
Saves all the equipment. You don't have to pay for any of the fees, any of the like Axis just said, any of the external ways that you're negative externalities that you may be encountering or facing as well. You just get to throw it in. You are your own miner and let it ride.
Yeah, and it seems like I know a lot of people might disagree with this, but man, it seems to me like you eliminate like half the problems by you know, by not worrying about having that miner. I mean, you have similar types of concern with Bitcoin. If you're doing Bitcoin, let's say Bitcoin, you could just go do what we're doing with HEX, right?
Right.
I mean, you have the same types of concerns: price up and down, people going to dump on your head, demand on the system, and all that. Except I don't have to worry about selling it. You know, which by the way, I've talked to Axis about this a bunch of times. You know, we try to look at some of the numbers and the analysis of and I forget the term that's used for this one, Axis, but you know, unrealized profits or unrealized gains, where basically these you as a miner, you're always gathering your BTC up because eventually you got to pay your bills, right?
Right.
With HEX, I don't have to do that. Maybe I want to do it, but I don't have to do it. And so it creates a different kind of situation where there perhaps are, even today, people who never have to sell their HEX. And you know, that's a crazy thing. And I'm not suggesting right or wrong. I'm just saying, I think that with the fork, and particularly with both Pulse and PulseX coming out, there are a ton of people, hundreds of people that I think in the near future, they'll never have to sell their hex again unless they choose to.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I'm in a similar situation that I do believe, people are going to decide, and we've talked about this in the past, and I know y'all have talked about it to many folks as well with Crypto Sloth and Access and y'all on the channel together. But providing liquidity and going that way to actually exit, or not exit, but take profit without hurting price and having it negatively impact the overall ecosystem. You still get to provide a healthy ecosystem. I feel like a lot of people have, I don't want to say let that slip, because overall the markets for the most part are down and red in general for the overall macro scene for crypto as well. So it's very interesting to see that happen. I'm definitely a big fan of like the whole liquidity setup and providing liquidity. I don't really hear too many people talking about it so much anymore. And that kind of brings me over to the next question for Axis on this one. You've mentioned in the past that you were taught TA from a mentor, and what kind of inspired you to take that TA and start putting it into actual practice yourself? Did you go and look at short term on those trades that you would look at TA, or was it for long-term vision? And what are some tools and resources that you use or recommend for someone who may want to start learning similar items with technical analysis and market cycles? Oh, you're muted right now, I believe.
Yeah, I've always had like this obsessive type of personality where like when I get interested in something, I'm gonna like learn everything I can about it. And so with technical analysis, there was so much content being produced in 17 and 18 and 19 and 20 from people all over the web, on whether you're getting it from Twitter or whether you're getting it from YouTube. And so I was able to like cross-reference all of these data points that I was getting, just absorbing from the web, like a lot of people do. It's kind of self-taught.
Okay.
But with the help of having this expert veteran, the contrarian is what he goes by, is this old man that did the commodities game down in Chicago for the CME back in the freaking one of the 70s and 80s. So like he was there trading. I mean, he did it all the way till he was like VP of operations until like 2007, right before the great financial crisis, and he called it, and he had all his clients sell, and then he was out. He left the game.
Wow.
So he comes with all this experience and knowledge, and he helped me understand the vernacular and kind of like, I remember he always said that quote, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's like, the bulls, the bears, and the pigs get slaughtered. So like the bulls have their day, the bears have their day, and the pigs get slaughtered, meaning if greed would be the ultimate money killer. And I'll never forget that. And of course we've all been on the other side of that blade before. Because when things are popping off, that euphoria you feel, and
it's real.
Just that conviction can actually hurt you. Like that's why it's always good to stay neutral and emotionless in this stuff. But it's hard to do when you've lived your life a certain way, and if the gains are good enough, it does affect your psychology, which kind of lends itself well to the other things that I'm interested in, which is like philosophy and internal work, and like learning about how the mind works, and in social psychology, stuff like that, which all blends and plays a game in this fear, greed, FOMO game of markets, right? So kind of like you can find my expertise at the crux of, public sentiment meets TA meets qualitative analysis, and just, cross-referencing all these data points that you're getting from the larger economy, and then trying to measure how is that going to impact something so small like the crypto space, and how is that going to flow over time. And so I guess the sum of it is that I got a really tight focus on the TA. It's very interesting to me, and that if you want to be good at that stuff, then you better be comfortable sitting at the desk and just letting the information pour into your mind, and just like thinking about it and absorbing it and becoming kind of addicted to it. Because otherwise, I don't think you can be I don't think you can take it as like a pastime and do well with that. I think that's more meant for people that just want to like buy the dip and just walk away, and that's what Hex is made for. So isn't that ironic that I found myself taking both sides of that, where like trading is like short term, investing is long term, and just being able to like mold it all into a well defined risk portfolio, right? So
For
that
sure.
you got a lot more on the mid to long end in crypto with things that are going to work long term, but then being able to take things in the short term and compound them in your favor.
Now, if someone's just learning TA, something that commonly happens is people will get overconfident, or they'll make a trade and it works the first time or even the second time. But again, these trades going back to back to back to back to back are very difficult to perform, which is where sometimes you run the risk. When you first started learning, was it straight into crypto that you learned TA, or were you using it, performing it through the stocks, the S&P 500, some meme stocks, Tesla, AMC, whatever it may be, right? Google, any of the Facebook shares or anything like that? Would you recommend someone start that world and do a simulator and actually go that route for practice? Do you think simulators are even worth it?
I think if you want to get in the game now, you have to put skin in the game, and that's the best way to learn. But you just put in just a little bit of skin.
Okay.
Don't be putting your whole heart in there, because you're gonna get it. You're gonna end up with a wooden stake in it or something.
Right.
So just put a little bit of money on the line, and like honestly, crypto is the best place to start because of a couple factors. So like when you're charting like the other markets, those charts are very controlled and manipulated, and there's a lot more at play there than with a raw free market crypto chart, where like patterns are going to play out more organically, and you're going to actually get to see the emotion on the chart.
Okay.
And so I think taking like little bets on like some of the blue chip crypto charts might be some of the better plays you could do. But
okay,
trading is not the where to start. It's more you should play this game of, if you're first just getting into TA, like you should play this game of, I'm going to try and I'm buying and holding for the long term. That's my mindset. But I'm going to try and snipe that next bottom. So I'm coming in when everyone's screaming fear and there's just huge red candles on the chart, and that's when I'm going to come in and I'm going to try and snipe that bottom, and I'm just going to hold it, and I'm not going to bring in my whole bag, but I'm going to bring in 5 or 10%, and I'm going to wait, and then I'm going to watch that chart a little bit, and then the next time it does it again, I'm going to do it again. But the thing that you're going to learn from that process is patience, because that's the one thing that nobody can teach you that you need to teach yourself, is patience.
Right.
And then if you start getting good at sniping bottoms like that, then you're going to have the determination and patience to actually actively trade charts that are you're not just dip buying on. So.
Gotcha. I absolutely love that. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing. TA is wonderful. It can be used however there's many different lessons with TA that you can learn, but it's whatever makes sense for you and how you can make sense of the data at the end of it to truly get a better understanding of what it actually ends up coming out to. So I'm right there with you. Now, ChrispyMan, I know you don't necessarily focus so much on the TA side. How did you become so interested in HEX, and what made you decide to actually dedicate a whole website and YouTube channel for it?
Oh yeah, sure. Well, to be fair, I've done my share of TA, terrible TA. but which leads me to HEX, right? Because I couldn't figure it out, right? So maybe I didn't have the right mentor, right? I don't have a contrarian out there, right? But I'm learning a lot from this guy by the name of Axis, a lot.
Right.
So I've been
for sure.
doing that. It hasn't changed my position in terms of like, am I going to trade or not, right? Because I typically don't trade, and if I am doing anything that like swaps, whatnot, it's gamification.
Right.
Like I know that it's 100% gambling, and maybe I do okay. But my approach has been very much, hey, buy the bottoms of things and just kind of like hold them. And then, 99.9% of what I got is RH tokens, the top 4. And that's what I focus on. I focus on building, yield with all those tokens, so I'm in the farms and I'm in the validation field, and I'm doing, mining of hex, and my concept is to have yield that pays me a living wage no matter what part of the cycle we're in, right? And so that's how I've gone after that. And then the website part of it, honestly, in the beginning, because I was already in tech, right, before Hex, and I've been doing tons of reporting and stuff, and everything that I was doing had to do with data management and being a data scientist and all this other stuff, right? That's a new term, fancy term.
Yep.
But and I was like, oh, I could do all this reporting with Hex, right? And we were on ETH, and initially though, and a lot of people don't realize this, maybe it wasn't easy to get data. It wasn't easy to get data. Hex was one of the first contracts that came out, the first setups that really gave you the ability to get data. Mostly because Richard is open that way, and he wants it to be transparent. Has always said he wanted to be transparent. Kind of use that as a big plus. And then some people like Code AK, I call him Kodiak, they come out, with building one of the first subgraphs that was out there for Hex, like almost day one. And you had the guys over at Hex.Vision trailblazing, right? And so you have all this data and stuff. So I didn't go too far initially with it, right? I didn't go too far. But once the data started coming and becoming available, rather than me go learn programming, I waited for the data to come to me. But what I've been doing for like a year and a half is copy paste. So if I wanted, because I was looking for my stuff, like what's going on with my stakes, what's going on with my miners, copy paste, go put the data in, kind of figure out what I wanted to do that way. Well, then with the data availability, I could kind of upscale that and scale it up to look at all the stakes.
Okay.
And then the real big one was, I think Wales may have instigated the whole thing. Why I even built the website in the first place. We had like a 400 hex change in the T-share rate, and everybody went nuts. This is back.
Yep.
I forget what date it was. It was like maybe it was 700, and everybody went nuts, and people were like, "You just never know when this is going to happen. There's no way to tell." And I was like, that can't be true. That can't be true, that you can't know. And what irritated me about it is because I had just unstaked.
Yep.
I had a minor end, and I was waiting to restake, and I got stuck paying 700 more, whatever it worked out to be when I restaked. More, and I was like, this is crap. I should be able to figure this out. And that's really the genesis, to be able to put that together and then try to share those types of models. And at least to my knowledge, I don't remember somebody did it, but to my knowledge, I don't think anybody had been doing that before. So I think I had come up with maybe the first true like forecast for T-share rates, for instance.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate, if y'all haven't seen the website that he has created, it is absolutely phenomenal. I found it and fell in love because I'm a data nerd, and it has all the data right there for you. And again, the website y'all can go find at hexfire.io. It's just like the name that you see on all of the socials. It is a phenomenal website, and it has a lot of information for when stakes are ending, when other information is going to go up. Now, one thing it did show was we're looking at hitting a 30,000 hex per T-share this year.
More than likely. Well, yeah, definitely 30,000 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're already at like 29 some change already, and so we're definitely hitting 30. And I know it anticipates us getting way above into the 40, 50, and y'all can see the forecast at his website as well if y'all go check it out. This is one of those things that when you see that information, does it make you want to go just like stake everything?
Well, it gives me the FOMO, right? I mean, I get a lot of criticism from people like, "Oh, none of this matters." And I acknowledge that, hey, the contract's going to do what it's going to do, whether I look at it or not, right? But I got to pass the time somehow, right? So either I'm going to be looking at this information, trying to share it, trying to figure out how to eke out a little bit extra leverage out of the whole thing, by timing what I'm doing, or I guess I could just ignore it. But I do think there's a lot of new people that it provides additional data points about things that people say. Like there are lots of cryptos out there, quote unquote cryptos, right?
Right.
And people say a lot of things about them. And like, at least in my experience, like 99% of it, I can't verify crap.
Correct.
It's just somebody told me something or I saw something. But in HEX, it's not like that. You can go verify this stuff. So you don't like what I'm predicting or what my forecast is, you can go do the forecast. The information's there. Go do your own forecast. And people have. In fact, I feature some of the.
That sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, it is.
I'll just trust your word.
A lot of work. But what I'm saying is that, that's
you can't verify.
Yeah. And it's cool. It's cool community stuff. Like, on our T-share rate forecasts that are out there, I've got the forecast that I calculate where I do it one way. We got this guy Hopper from from up on Twitter. He's a mathematician. He came up with another way to come up with it. We got KSB TV. They produced one, and we're able to look at all these different things, and then even going over to HEX is the way. I don't know if you know HEX is the way.
I don't know if I've ever checked out HEX is the way.
I think the streamer. If I'm getting his name correct, I believe HEX is the way, right? And he's out of Korea, my understanding, right? Anyways, but he has his own prediction, and so we have these different ones that we can put together and work together as kind of a community. One of them will come close,
right?
We're just not sure which one, right? But
for sure.
So far, yours is tracking pretty well, huh?
It's been pretty damn spot on. I mean, how long has that site actually been up and running? Because I mean, if you break it down from, it shows all the information that you just said, right? Like the time that you've had the website out and it's been on there since, and you can see the share rate tracking pretty like within 100. I'd even say, to be fair. You're pretty damn close to exactly how it's playing out. So
yeah, 100%, man. Well, it's kind of easy. Don't tell anybody. This is kind of a secret. It's a calculation. So
math.
It's kind of hard for me to make it up. So the closer we get to the day of, the more exact it is. Which is another cool thing about doing these types of forecasts is, we do swing. I do like a weekly every Friday on T-share rate and whatnot, and you can actually see the T-share rate swing up and higher to the right over time. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, I've had it up for about 2 years now. I think I'm coming up on 2 years. So it's like a lot of work in there.
Alan Fismay is asking, have you heard of ChatGPT?
I have, Alan. I have.
I love ChatGPT, man. I love AI in general. What's y'all stance on the whole AI world and concept? I'm a big fan of it. Midjourney, the art, the creation, the ChatGPT, the ability to come out with any questions that you have. It helps. What is y'all's thoughts on that?
AI is the devil. ATX.
Sounding like what is Waterboy?
AI is the devil, Mama. Don't hit me.
That was a hilarious movie. Yeah, big fan of that movie as well.
I think obviously it's an important piece of human history being created right now in front of our very eyes, and it's kind of past the threshold in terms of Pandora's box has been opened, and it's gonna basically go on, live on, teach itself, and God knows where it'll put us in 50 years. I don't know. Of course, the good comes with the bad, but there's good there too. So it reduces friction Axis like you wouldn't believe, right? Potentially. Right now, it's kind of weird.
Yeah,
weird.
Sometimes it's wrong. It'll throw out wrong information. All that
stuff, right? But in the business I was in before, even what I'm doing now with this X-Fire stuff, right? I got to go look at the contract, and I got to go make sure the math is right, and I got to go build these models, right? And it's not like I haven't done similar stuff before. Somebody else hasn't, right? But near in the future, you'll just go, I don't know. I'll go, hey, Axis, go build me, a new data model, and it'll just go. My Axis AI will go build a new data model. I don't even have to think about it. Now it's kind of scary in a way, right? Because now I don't have the skill set anymore to go do this stuff. But you can see, man, I was on board submarines, right? Because I was in the Navy. There are systems that are installed on those things, hundreds of systems that you would have to, like, it would take
You're breaking
10
up a little bit
lifetimes
on
to
there.
figure it all out,
Yep.
right?
Right.
So as we progress, we have more information technology that we can leverage, And so I think ultimately it could be a very, very good thing and really reduce a lot of friction, but it may also put a lot of us out of work.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, well, it's one of those. I wouldn't say. I don't know if it's ever gonna. Yeah, it's gonna put some people out of work, but for the most part, I think it just helps the efficiency of the work that you can do and output. So instead of trying to have someone understand the data of a whole spreadsheet, you can have it done within. You can teach someone how to actually input the information and have it read and understood within minutes, if not, a few hours, at least, if done correctly, over someone else trying to verify that it's done correctly, because people have flaws too, right? Most of the time, humans are going to have more errors, I would say, than the AI in the future. So I think I'm right there with you. I don't know if it'll ever fully replace. Yes, some people are going to lose. It's funny that people had talked about it replacing the jobs of workers and everything like that through the blue collar work, but it seems like it's actually kind of flipping around, where people who are like trying to do all the art and all that good stuff, they're the ones who are really getting hit right now at this point in time.
Yep.
Always good to see. And I don't know if it's ever going to be a point in time where it'll fully replace, and if it does, you'll just go teach yourself a new skill, like Axis said, right? Go immerse yourself into all the information if you really want to, and then you can have your foot in the door, at least a leg up on most other people who would be in that same field. So I'm right there with you as well.
AI herder. You'll be an AI herder.
Right? There you go.
Hey, listen, my plan D is I'm going to be a barista or or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
But I aspire to that because I'd like someone to be able to make me a black coffee and get it right. And so if AI can make me a black coffee and I don't have to worry about it being wrong, I'll be pretty happy about that.
Heck yeah, I'm right there with you. I throw some cream in mine. I don't do the black. I'm not that. I can't do the. I got into coffee like whenever I married my wife, and that was 8 years ago or so. And I never really drank coffee before. It was something that I just let it be. I didn't drink it, didn't use it, and now fucking can't go without it. And I'm like, damn it, woman. So she's the one who's like coffee drinker every single day, 4 or 5 cups a day, and she's narrowed it down to like 1 or 2 now. But she's the one who first got it started for myself, and I'm right there drinking all the coffee with her as well. I got a few more questions. I want to start looking at some charts because I know there's some crazy stuff happening in our ecosystem. So we'll definitely get around to that. For those of y'all who are in the chats, if y'all want, feel free to leave any comments or questions that you do have. I'll go through them toward the end. So stick around. We'll go back and kind of recap all the stuff that we had discussed and also look at all the comments as well. So make sure to like, share, subscribe. Again, be sure to support these folks as well. You can find all their socials listed on screen, showing up right now, and also down in the description below. You can find all their links to all their socials. I definitely advise going and clicking them, subscribing to their content, and supporting the creators in our ecosystem as well. So for Axis, when you first got into trading, I guess, how do you approach trading and investing in the crypto space, and what are some strategies and principles that you can follow or that you advise? I guess we don't financially advise anything here, but what are some strategies and principles that you can implement?
I think, first and foremost, you got to have something that's paying you to hold it at the core. So like your core of your portfolio should be like, it's easy to fall back on HEX staking ladders. That's why that's where a lot of us are doing really well. Like a stake from 2.5 years ago is now half that bag is interest, or like fresh coins that you've minted just for sitting there and holding them. If you're holding like cryptocurrencies and not earning on them, like you need to rethink your approach, because that's like where this is going, especially with like the DeFi stuff, is like if you're not LPing or you're not staking or you're mining or you're not thinking about how you're going to have your money working for you in crypto, then you're totally reliant on the price performance, and that forces you to have to trade more actively. So that's why I always say, like, if you could just, get a hedge, right? Hedge means, if my trading performance is poor, I still have this staking ladder paying me every day just to sit here and try to do something else too, So,
right.
That's, and it's relevant because right now, like, for example, you could get 1,000,000 hex for like $3,000. And if you're DCAing in with like $500 a month for like 6 months, you could easily get that 1,000,000 hex on Ethereum. And then, with any little bit of like market cycle theory or trying to time up the next bull market for crypto, maybe you go out to like May of 2026, or you go a little sooner, a little farther. Like I did like a little calculation here. That's 963 days from now. That's going to pay you 25% just for sitting there and holding that 1,000,000 hex, right? In a stake. So like, that doesn't seem like a lot today. So it's like, you put in $3,000, it's going to pay you $1,000 when you get it back if the price is here. But with any luck, that bull market timing is halfway right. And I mean, that number can multiply. So like, it would have been totally worth your time to stake, even short to midterm. So that's number one. And then like, because I am like Crispy, like, yeah, the trading is nice, and like, but it's not guaranteed. What's guaranteed is that payout that you're getting from staking, right? Because it's the least risk. The only risk you take on by staking hex is the risk of the price going down on farther.
Right.
But beyond that, like, if there's any shadow of a doubt that this thing's going to recover, first of all, to do a 10x, it's only 3-cent hex.
Facts on facts.
3-cent hex, which is like the total global average of hex price. So since it started,
right.
So like, if you're betting that it's going to go back to the global average net weighted median price, then you can secure a 10x. So your $3,000 turns into $30,000 by May 1st of 2026, and then that $1,000 turns into $10,000 for having that stake in there. So that's got to be number one. And then beyond that, you can start looking into liquidity providing to try to earn fee, and you can look into just trading. There's like probably 10 different ways you can look at a wallet and see it in different ways and try to find different opportunities in cryptocurrency. Shit, you could even plug in a Bitcoin miner and just earn that way if you really wanted to. I just think that hex is a better bet. So
yeah, I mean, especially considering you don't have to, like you said, pay for any of the externalities like, electricity and all that other stuff, or even just paying for the actual rig itself. I mean, half the time, and you've heard this in the past with Bitcoin mining, by the time you end up getting your miner, you're paying, you're buying it from someone who's already used essentially the beginning stages when it was actually most efficient. And now you're getting 50% less by the time you actually end up getting it, thereby causing you to take longer to recoup some of the fees that actually cost to actually get it done. Whereas with staking hex or mining hex, you can put that into a nice little miner and let it do all the earning of the trustless yield. And at the end of it, you don't have to pay for any sort of externalities besides the simple fee of the gas fee. Which is, again, you're going to have to pay to transact on the network regardless.
So it's pretty cool because, ChrispyMan's with us, and he's actually went and done like a deep dive analysis on gas costs. And like, I think the takeaway there is that if you're patient when your stake ends, even in a bull market, you can still get away with only paying like 50 to 60 gwei. I think it might even be lower. Correct me if I'm wrong, Crispy, but like, you've done all that analysis. It's on your YouTube channel. So this fear mongering around gas fees and shit, it's just not adequate. And it, with any luck, if the Ethereum Foundation will push an upgrade that's going to reduce gas fees for both PulseChain and Ethereum, and that's going to just be rocket fuel for for hex on both chains.
Right.
Yeah, the FUDRUs out there, that's spelled FUDRUs. The FUDRUs, right? They're half right. They're half right.
Right.
If you pick your time, you get cheap gas right now. In fact, it's cheaper now to do transactions. At least it was over the last few weeks than it was in January of 21. Right. So in terms of that, but you cannot escape the fact that, you know, hex miners ending that are longer costs more because it's per day. And you have to assume, at least assume that maybe at the top of this bull, you know, Ethereum's going to do a 3x, 5x. Some people think it's going to do a 10x, whatever. Well, that's going to affect those prices as well and the cost. So it's just good to get information out so people can plan ahead. And one way you can do that is just hedge your bet by getting ETH now. You know?
Well, I mean, I've heard we got the third cycle curse coming for Ethereum, as your friend Tommy likes to, you know, say on that one, or you know, put the little statement out there. The third cycle curse for Ethereum, and being that there's so many coins for altcoins either tied to liquidity for Ethereum that it may not either perform as well. What do y'all think about that? And do you think it will have any impact on the overall system? Because I know we got PulseChain first cycle coin. We got HEX going into its second cycle, Bitcoin going into its fourth, and Ethereum going into that, again, the third cycle curse. People have already kind of learned what they need to learn with Ethereum. And so the gains may not be as high as people may expect, which thereby may end up impacting some other price appreciation for other tokens as well. Do y'all feel something similar?
Definitely.
100%, man. Okay. Yeah, so I think I'll tell you this. I think that Pulse will be the first L1 to not produce anything and go to zero, right? Because all the other dog shit did so much better, right? And then if this time's different for ETH, it's going to do like 1,000,000x, right? So we'll just go the other way. But seriously, right? We look at the laws of diminishing gains or whatever it is, the law of diminishing gains. I mean, you would expect that it's going to back off a little bit. I will say that this time, you know, there's always a chance that things can be a little twisted and exaggerated. You know, we are in some changing times, right? There are more traditional, you know, companies and finance looking into crypto. I mean, I look at the chart. Like this doesn't mean anything. I can't draw exact conclusions from it, but look at the cycle chart with, and I think maybe Axis, you posted it, or I saw somebody else post the inventory of Bitcoin on centralized exchanges, and just how different it looks this time. Now, does that mean anything? I don't know, but I'm just acknowledging that things could change, and they may affect the supply dynamics, and maybe we get surprised with certain things. I don't know.
Awesome.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think this cycle is going to look a lot different than prior cycles in a lot of ways. I can basically open the can of worms for you, or anything else you wanted to say, Crispy.
No, I'm good, man. I got enough trouble. I bought enough trouble with that statement.
Yeah, I don't think it. So I look at it.
PulseX is going to zero.
I look at it like this, man. Bitcoin. Okay, in the early, you have to look at the context. So back in the early days of Bitcoin, Bitcoin was the only cryptocurrency, and you needed Bitcoin to swap into any other altcoin / shitcoin. Like the way the exchanges were set up was there was Bitcoin dollar, and then everything else was paired against Bitcoin. And so like in the same way of Hart's law, where binded liquidity makes all the prices rise and fall together, which is what we're seeing on PulseChain, is what we saw in the early days of Bitcoin, because all these exchanges, which there wasn't many, just a handful, were all trading against Bitcoin pairs. So whatever Bitcoin did, all the altcoins would do.
Right.
So nowadays,
I mean, that's exactly what's kind of happening right now, right? Where everything is tied together.
So to take that a step further with like Ethereum, like, I look at Ethereum as like the one thing that put a chink in Bitcoin's armor, and like, so it was like the only other thing that could stand up to Bitcoin and have the same effect, which was because of the ERC20 standard and ICO mania. Like anything that was tied to Ethereum, like yes, Bitcoin and ETH was an important pair, but beyond that, like if everything kind of just fluctuated in relation to Ethereum at some point during that last two cycles, and this previous cycle was even more important because that's the advent of DeFi and the Uniswap protocols, right?
Right.
So with that in mind, like what we got going on for this cycle is like, so Bitcoin got a leaky hole. That was Ethereum. Now Ethereum's got competing against all these other layer ones. Well, it's like a bucket with a bunch of holes in it, and all of the money is like flowing out of the bucket at faster and faster rates because there's more interoperability amongst all these other chains, and nothing's really different between them. Like, they all operate relatively the same. You're basically using MetaMask to do anything on them if you're just a regular user, and that's the same across any layer 1 anyways. So really what you have is like everything is getting laterally distributed, and everything is getting diluted across all these layer 1s. And so I don't really think the gains can be as good, because you're not focusing all of the monetary energy down a small pipe anymore. Now you're putting it down like a million pipes that's all flowing at the same time. And so it's going to minimize the effects of the pumps, but they're all going to pump up and down together, which could potentially set up for the altcoin market to really have an organic, like 2017 and 2016 type bull market again, instead of this choppy, like 19 and 20 was more like big down, big up, big down, big up, and that was it. Game over. Nice job. Let's all go home.
Right.
Like I think, unlike that, maybe we see more of like an organic on-chain movement of money, but that's going to take things that's going to have to occur in the macro environment, where more and more US dollars and other fiat currencies is going to have to get printed to give us the liquidity we need to make that happen. Because right now there's a shortage of dollars, and dollars are expensive to borrow. And so it's not a very good environment for cryptocurrency, because people can't eat their cryptocurrency. They can't live in their cryptocurrency.
Right.
It's like the first thing that people sell in order to survive, because it's the most liquid thing. So when the liquidity comes back, crypto is going to do good. So I just think, because of on-chain traded assets, it could be a type of a situation where Ethereum isn't going to do amazingly well on its own. Okay, yeah, you might get $10,000, $15,000 Ethereum, but the gains are going to flow through the ERC20s, and then they're going to flow into the other layer 1s where the opportunity is, and all of the smaller altcoins that's tied to those layer 1s. And the thing that's the least liquid is going to pump the hardest. Kind of think of it like, what are those things called in the water when they shoot the big water spout up through the middle? It's like like where volcanoes are. Like volcanoes do this, where like they create these like fissures in the earth, and like you'll start seeing these huge like cannons of water come out of and it'll just explode up. It'll be like one will pop off, and the other one will geyser. That's the word. And they're just popping off like all over the place. But that's going to come when the water starts to get deeper and deeper and deeper, because the money that's flowing in is going to be coming in such a tremendous amount and speed, because everybody's going to be chasing. It's going to be another bull market just like the last, but hopefully it's like a little bit longer, more organic, and the main blue chip cryptos aren't going to pump quite as hard. Like I think Bitcoin, you'd be lucky to see it breach like 80 to 90K, like under what I'm seeing right now circumstances. And I mean, there's more nuance to like what could happen with Bitcoin, which can affect the other pieces of the puzzle as well. But we're at that inflection point right now where it's a lot of this is hinging on what the Federal Reserve is going to do and how this U.S. presidential election plays out. So there's a lot of other things going on that's more important right now than like knowing that stuff. Like I think we're already positioned well, and we're in the thing that can pump hard. If that weren't the case, I wouldn't be here.
I don't think any of us would, in all reality, truth be told.
And so I just think it's a case of like we need the liquidity to come back, and you'll see wherever there's innovation. And I think that there's still things to improve on with PulseChain, but I think that nobody's really created the Amazon of blockchains. Like nobody's done it yet, and if they have, it's totally under the radar right now. Nobody's talking about it. So in the interim, what can we do is we can trade laterally on a clone of Ethereum so that we can get the best of both worlds, because Hexkin's got the best of everything because we have assets on both chains. So we're tied to the deeper liquidity on Ethereum, and we have all the pump potential on the smaller chain with faster transaction speeds, better fees, and all the limit orders are going to come online, and all the extra bells and whistles will come online. And so I think that it's going to end up being quite an interesting cycle for everybody. And I think if you're not paying attention now, when you can get a lot of the assets for super cheap, you might be that guy that's looking for, like, I need $3 hex to make it. Like, well, don't be that guy. Like, position yourself now while you can do well at 30-cent hex or 50-cent hex. You know what I mean?
Right.
For example.
Right.
because the opportunity is here at the lows, not when it's at 20 cents going to go to $2. It's a 10x, man, and that's a small window. So do what you can while you got it.
So you said a couple of things in there that I just kind of want to go back and just kind of touch on real fast. So one of the things you had mentioned, and it was just through a brief little statement, was Uniswap and what they had going on. Now, recently, Uniswap just beat, or a judge came through from the New York court and said that the SEC has no right to go after Uniswap for hosting tokens on their decentralized platform that could be potentially scams for people. And so they essentially kind of like had them drop that suit. Do you think that that's been happening actually for several other crypto items as well? Not just Uniswap. This has actually been coming around where Ethereum's been just declared a commodity through a couple of judges, and that all that's kind of coming around now. It doesn't really pertain to the same effect with the SEC allegations with Richard Hart, because they're alleging that he's spending the money, and that's where the actual case is brought up against him. But just in mention of Richard Hart, they're trying to tie, I guess, PulseChain, PulseX, and HEX. Do we see that also possibly having a chance to get thrown out? And I'm not a lawyer by any means, and I don't expect y'all to know this. Just kind of getting some thoughts on where you think, what your thoughts on that field.
Yeah, I mean, my speculation, and that's all it is, a speculation, is that it's going to end up being a big nothing burger. In a lot of ways.
What about you, Chrissy, man? What are you thinking? See you pondering over there.
I don't know, man. I think it can go so many different ways. Like, I want to fight. I want to see a fight.
I think we all do. In all reality, like, I know that it could bring about some more pain for a little bit longer, but I think having that fight brought to the open front for everyone to see could benefit the grand scheme and the macro thing overall for the health and ecosystem of crypto in general.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of different viewpoints. Thank God I don't have to make the decision, and thank God nobody's going to listen to me to influence the decision.
Right.
But I could see a scenario for closing it. Boom, whatever, do it, done. Let's move on.
Right.
I can even see a scenario for ignoring it.
Right.
And I can see, I can see how fighting it in the short term could be hold us back a little bit, but might be super bullish for long term. Like,
yeah, and there's no telling about how long it could take either. So even a fight could happen and it could still technically end before the bull cycle. I know typically legal battles tend to go on a little bit longer, but that's just a little bit longer.
You think RH is pragmatic? I think he's pragmatic, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I think
sure.
I think he's reality based. I think that on the one hand, to make a point and to win is a very good thing. And I think everything that I've seen from him would indicate that he would do that.
Right? I mean, his tweets indicate that he's just preparing for battles.
Yeah, just smash it, man. Just smash it. But I could also see him go, hey guys, listen, we could do this for the next 4 years. It's not going to change anything by doing it, and all it's going to do is hurt people. So let's close it off. Let's move.
Well, we've seen one thing, that the reason why I kind of think the fight happens is because we've seen how people react with Richard Hart and his one alleged thing that happened way in the past, long time ago, that he ended up getting sued for, and got called the scammer in that regard, and that kind of stuck with him. And I think that will, once bitten, twice shut, right? Like that whole type deal where it's like he's been bit already, and they're tied that one little thing of a civil court where he just settled, because I believe he also settled in that case as well, if my memory serves correct, where he settled, and now people still bring that up, and it was something of like a $500 suit, or something thing like that.
I don't even know that it's quote unquote. I don't even think you could consider it to be settling. I mean, it was. They sent him a ticket. They sent him a ticket, and he said, "I'm not going. I'm not going to the West Coast."
Correct, and that's why I said, like, he's in that situation where it's one of those, like, I've seen that in the past, and people are still holding that over his head. And so that's where I think the battle happens regardless, right? But that's my thought. And I don't know, who knows? We obviously, it's all speculation. We're all just making stuff up. And guys, to everyone watching the stream right now, thank you so much to all the people viewing the stream right now. Much love. If you have questions, again, we're going to come back to them toward the end of the stream. If you could do me a favor and either just type in question, just so that way I can come back to your question prior to you typing it out, or even just put a question mark at the end. That way I can do a search and make sure that we cover all questions that may end up coming through. That'd be greatly appreciated as well. And then one other thing that you had said, Axis, was the 2024-2025 cycle. And I think we might start getting the Federal Reserve start dropping the rates, you know, and then the bull cycle happens, money printers turn on, and that could just coincide perfectly with the next bull cycle. That would be pretty awesome as well. And dude, I'm looking forward to either way about how it's all going to end up working. So when it comes to guys, when it comes to creating content, educating others, and even managing your own portfolio, what are some challenges that y'all face, you know, or rewards that you enjoy by doing so?
Go ahead, ChrispyMan.
No, I'm thinking, what do I enjoy about all this stuff?
Making money.
Helping people. That part I like. I like that part. I like that part.
Analyzing data. I like all that stuff too, man. It's all good. It's not weird.
It sounds like you're listening to your own reason. But I think, yeah, it's definitely something that's been a thing for quite some time. And again, I'm a big fan. I know like do the liquidity provider course that Axis and Crypto Sloth put together. Much love on that. There's a lot of content to be out, and I'm sure they're going to come back around for round 3 to help educate more people into the ecosystem, because we now have PulseChain and Ethereum happening at the same time. So we want to teach people how to technically take profits, a better way to not hurt the ecosystem by providing liquidity. Through providing liquidity, you actually get to earn some fees and actually just sell the profits that way. So I'm looking forward to all the information that ends up coming up. Now I have one final question, I guess, for Crispy, and then we'll get into some charts, because I'm excited to look at some charts right now, man. These prices are looking just too damn good for everyone. But for Crispy on this one, like, so when you executed your staking strategy, how did you first plan and execute the staking or mining strategy for HEX? And what might be some tips or even tricks that you can share with other people who are looking to do something similar?
Sure. Hey, you know, what's it called when you paint with a paintbrush and you dip it in the paint and you just like shake it at
I don't know what that's called. Actually, splatter painting.
Yeah, maybe abstracts.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just throw something against the wall and see what happens.
Shotgun pellets.
Yeah.
Hey man, initially I thought I had like plans, and then I don't know, man. I was new to all this stuff, so my initial kind of like staking ladder looks like it makes no sense. Yeah, Jackson Pollock style. There you go.
Jackson Pollock. There you go. Okay. So
it just makes no sense, right?
Okay.
That's how I started. But then as I went along, I started thinking about more and more and learned more about T-shares and blah, blah, blah. And I ended up settling in on oldest first, and moving my way backwards yearly. And then eventually I figured out I'm going to try. And of course, half the time I'm like ADHD or something, right? So I only make it halfway through what I'm doing over time, because I'm doing this over about a year and a half, you know?
Right.
And then finally got my ladder all set and all this other stuff. And then I discovered I don't like quarterly stakes. So I like having yield come out monthly. It's just me. Some people like quarterly. It's fine. And so I'm more about what I call hex flow, and flowing the hex that I have come out. Right. And so that I have a certain amount each month forever into the future. That's what I do.
Interesting. Yeah. So I had and I'll come back to Axis because I'm very curious, because I did the same thing. I know I've said my story in the past as well to anyone watching. I'm sure you may have heard it, but I did the same thing in the very beginning. I did 2 little test stakes. I just wanted to see how it went, 30-day and a 7-day. Ended the 7-day early. I wanted to see how the penalty system worked, and then I did a 30-day. I realized that, you know, unless you come in with a decent size amount of hex in the initial portion, 30 days don't really make too much sense to go that route. Kicking it out 15 years and filling in backwards was my way of doing it. And I absolutely loved the way it actually ended up working out, because granted, I actually have probably one of my bigger stakes actually going out to the 15-year mark. And I think that's awesome for me, because it's one of those, like, I truly am waiting for that. And then I was able to fill in the rest. For people who are coming in new with PulseChain, something that happened, and maybe y'all can help educate everyone because y'all were in during the early stages of Hex, if not the very beginning. When people first got started, what they would do daily stakes, weekly stakes. They would do these stakes that would just compound so much, and they did like a daily stake for 2 years. So for basically 730 days or whatever it was, they would just have stakes coming out every single day. And I see people starting to do something similar with the PulseChain system, because fees are back to being actually decent. You know, we can actually pay, and it's just a couple of cents to transact and pay the gas fee. What do y'all have any suggestions or tips to help those folks who may be thinking, because fees are cheap, I can just do a lot of little stakes?
Well,
Don't do it.
I think yeah, I mean, I'm with Axis. I think that is a turnoff to some people, because I had this question on chat the other day on stream. But yeah, I would tell people, listen, you have to assume the worst case. It may be in a similar situation with Pulse. Now, maybe you got enough Pulse, meaning the price goes up. I mean, it was only a couple pennies when I did my stakes I'm minting now.
Yep.
On Ethereum, and now it's dollars, right? So the same thing could happen, and so at least loose rule of thumb, bigger is probably better for that purpose. I sure as heck would. I sure as heck wouldn't be doing 1-2 hex. 10 hex.
I'm with you on that. I think, you know, there's a different strategy if we're talking Ethereum staking or if we're talking PulseChain staking, but generally. Right. Like if you've never bought Hex before, but you're kind of like listening in and you're like, you know, maybe it's worth just $1,000 just putting it away for a longer, like that's what you want to do. You want to put it away for 2 cycles or 3 cycles from now, because that's how you're going to win the hardest. And so maybe do like a really long one, 10 to 15 years, and then do like a 5 to 10 year, and then do one more shorter if you can do that. And then we're talking like no less than 100,000 hex right now, because this is the opportunity you have now to get that much, and you're going to appreciate that you don't sell all that at this next bull market. If you know, if you end up having, like, if you had the 100,000 and it did a 6-figure move for $1,000, like, and you hold, and then you go through a whole 2 cycles, well, that could be a 7-figure bag by then, and hopefully then it becomes a game of, did Hex outperform the debasement of my nation state currency? That's what the game becomes, and that's why we're all in this, is because we're trying to outpace inflation and currency debasement, and that's like that's why I'm here. That's to piggyback on what we were talking about earlier. That's what keeps me going. That's what, you know, has me excited. Is like there's nothing else that's going to run like crypto's going to run. Right. There may only be 1 or 2 more good cycles left in crypto to really do the mad gains. But I don't see the technology that's going to do that outside of maybe going out and doing venture capital and finding like the next big idea and supporting the next big software idea or the next big invention. I don't know. Right. Next free energy or like space exploration or something like that. But you need to get the resources first, and if crypto can give you a chance to get the resources, then that's how you're going to do it. And how you're going to do it is getting enough hex staked out that you're going to be hedging against what you're still accumulating now.
Boom. That's it. I mean, 100%. I'm actually a big fan of exactly how you just said that right there. And I think people are needing to learn the whole staking system. And there's so many videos out there. If y'all are learning staking or mining on Hex, definitely go back and learn the lessons of someone who's started in the beginning and the errors that they made in their first initial stakes. And you can take from that, make your own investment thesis and your own staking ladder and your own strategy to come out with what's going to be actually beneficial for you. I've always been a believer of, you know, make them dates that you have for a significant point in time. For example, a wedding anniversary, kids going to college, kids getting a car, whatever the case may be, put some significance or a moment behind it, so that way you have a better reason to actually handle and hold for the long haul of it all as well.
Yeah, so, not that I want you guys to just have only like 1 or 2 really meaningful things going on per year, but you don't need to be staking like 2 times a year is enough if you go big enough and you put them in the right place. And so then where you'd go is you'd go learn more about market cycle theory, and you try to project out over the next 10 to 15 years how you think these cycles are going to continue to play out. And that's kind of where I can plug our course. Crispy and I are putting together a market cycle theory course, hopefully in time before the bull market actually starts, to help you guys profit take properly and set up effective ladder strategies.
Yeah, I could definitely see that being a thing, and it's good for people to understand. Take profits, y'all. Take profits. Take profits. Let me say again, take profits.
People are probably spinning right now thinking like everything is like contradictory, but it's really not. It's just a matter of prioritizing what's most important.
Right.
So number 1, stake one long one to hedge against anything else that happens in the world. Number 2, start accumulating a position for the bull run. Number 3, okay, now I got spare change. Now how can I use this spare I thought I was going to get 500,000 hex. Now I got 1 million. Like, okay, well, now I have more options. Okay. So it's like more of a moving target based on your income levels and what you're willing to take risk on.
Well, I think you said it best too. Instead of anticipating a $3 hex to make your bag, to make it happen, at these prices, you can accumulate so much more to where you can lower that level of meeting that same criteria over the span of the next course of a few months, while we can accumulate at these low prices, and then have the target be even just previous all-time high even again, for example. And that makes it that much more likely that you're going to actually attain your goal and actually accomplish what you're looking for, instead of betting that you're going to end up getting a $3 hex and putting all of your chips in on $3 hex and not doing anything else to take advantage of these prices. So guys, that's all the questions that I have in terms of that. I'm very curious as to the basic questions.
One more thing I wanted to add to that.
Go ahead.
This is like this is for the OGs, man. This is for all the guys that have been in Hex for years. Look, Hex is going to do something incredible this cycle. And what I want to remind everyone is, like, you're not getting another layer 1 fork doubling of supply ever again. And so the level of depression in price right now, you will never see this again in Hex. Let me mark my words, because if it's going to play out, you're going to have new actors in the space. You're going to have some level of Metcalfe's Law take hold. And you're going to have probably 5 to 10x the user base. Right. And that's all it's going to take, that you're never getting a 99% dip in Hex ever again. Like, I really don't think it's going to happen for a third cycle. I think the next cycle lows are not going to be down 99%. And so this is a last call, I guess, and no one's, I think people figured it out, but they're just tapped out. Everyone's broke right now.
Well, I see, I've looked at, some data in the past, and there's still some wallets sitting on a lot of dry powder right now, whether it be just to pay for their own expenses and live their life without having to worry about their own, other cryptos doing it. But there's some dry powder sitting in some big wallets right now. And whenever they feel like stepping in, it really doesn't take too much to actually start pumping this stuff up, because there is low liquidity across, for the most part, all the ecosystem that we have right now. And so it can pump up very, very quickly. And I've said this in the past, and we've seen it happen already, where you get a 10x almost, when it went from what was it, 2 cents up to, well, I guess that was like a 7x, 2 cents up to 12 cents before the V3 launch of PulseChain. And up to that little moment in time, that was a quick little pump that I don't think anyone really saw happen. And that happened within the span of like 14 days. And it can happen just as quickly as again. So I think whenever someone's just ready to step in, whether it be God whale or whatever it may end up being, not necessarily the same God whale figure, but just another whale who has a fuck ton of money, can come in and just start poof, and then just skyrocket the price. Now I know you have something pulled up real fast, Axis. Do y'all have anything else you want to discuss real quick before we start pulling up the charts and all that good stuff?
Let's pull it up.
Cool. Let me get this.
This is more this chart. So someone in ATX's Patreon asked for this chart. This is the Benner cycle theory chart, and this goes back to the 1800s. And the gist of it is that, and this has been talked about a lot over this year, but it's important to remind you guys now how this works and where we're at in this cycle. So these triangles are trying to tell you the years when there's good years to buy, sell, trade, do all kinds of things. So look at the hands on the left. So this A, B, and C, these are the different time frames. So on the bottom is years of hard times and low prices. These are typically good years to buy equities or like risk assets, or it's saying here corner lots, goods, etc., and hold until the boom. So the boom is B. So this is like years of good times, high prices, time to sell stocks. So where we're at in this is right here in 2023 at the bottom of this. This is like a inflection point where, 2016 was a good time to sell. So if you adjust right slightly for like the 17 bull market for crypto, 16 and 17 was the year to do well in crypto, right? And so if you go back even farther, it's at 29. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention the top row, which is years in which panics have occurred and will occur again. So our next panic isn't until 2035. Last time it was 2019. So if you adjust 1 year, what happened 3 months later in March? It was the COVID crash where Bitcoin saw its double bottom at around 3,800. Okay, so if 2016, 2017 were good years to sell, and 2019, 2020 was the COVID crash. 2012 was around Mt. Gox when Bitcoin crashed majorly from I think it was, I don't remember the prices, but it crashed a ton. It might have even had a flash crash to nothing basically. But then in 2023, another year where it's a good year to buy and not be selling, guys, not to be hitting the sell button, because if you can wait till 2026 and 2027 based on what this is saying, right adjusted. This could be the years to really do well. So if I'm just a fly on the wall and listening to this, I might be thinking about setting up a hefty stake for sometime in 2026. If the peak comes before your stake ends, then you just take a little bit of a hit on the interest that you made, because the price appreciation of the interest you do get to keep is going to be so big, it'll have been worth setting up that stake in the first place. If you do it now, where you get 3 years of coin accumulation. If you wait a year and a half, the share rate's going to be higher and you're not going to get enough to make it worth your time. But if you do it now, you could time it up with 27 and 26 potentially. If it goes a little bit past your stake time, well then cool, you could start doing rolling stakes. Cool, my stake ended early, bull market's not done yet. I'll just roll it every 30 days, and the interest payments that you're going to be getting every 30 days in the middle of a bull run is going to be akin to Bitcoin mining when you bought $1,000 mining machine and it was printing you, $20 a day in the beginning, and now all of a sudden it's paying you $200 a day because Bitcoin went from $1,000 to $20,000 in less than a year, right? So that's the same feeling, and that feeling is what's going to drive the HEX price to insane prices, and it's going to also lead to all-time high staker participation, because the yield is going to be so good. It's going to lock up so many coins, and HEX is going to get so scarce. There's not going to be anything left to buy till the top, right? So that's what we're looking at.
Well, I mean, just to break it down, another way of what he's saying right there, and I just did some quick math, just to make sure I was right. So basically, if you were to have $5,000 worth of HEX, even during that time and doing the 30-day rolling stake, for example, you would be accumulating somewhere in the ballpark of about 83,000 HEX in that amount of time. And it's very interesting when you start getting into the numbers, because like you said, if you were just looking to end up making the yield earned on that amount of time, you can make 83,000 HEX earned during that time pretty quickly, to be fair. And that would probably net you a good chunk of change, even if, let's just say you only earned 10,000 HEX during that time, because that's the amount of HEX that you accrued, but HEX is back at 50 cents, for example. You're still netting $5,000 on that 10,000 HEX, right? And so like he said, right? By going up on the mining for Bitcoin, you just get to keep on rolling that and compounding it. And for a lot of people, $5,000 a month is for the most part enough to cover living expenses for majority of America, if I don't believe, or majority of people in general, especially in third world countries where the dollar actually holds a lot more power over there as well. So yeah, keep that in mind. I absolutely love this chart. I've seen you pull this up previously. The fact that it's just nailed it so freaking perfectly is shocking to a certain level. It's one of those like kind of freaky type things. You don't want to admit it, and then you see it play out, and you're like, I mean, I'm looking at it, and it seems to be a pretty damn good time. And so right now is definitely in the accumulation phase. Do you want to talk about anything else? Like for example, let's just talk about ratio trading. So right now, a good little ratio that people could be looking at is, in fact, the PulseX to Pulse ratio at this point in time with where current market's at. So where the levels are currently sitting for that ratio to happen, this could potentially be a great time to trade out of some of the Pulse chain or some of the PulseX. Let me go backwards. You could trade out some of your Pulse into PulseX at this point in time, benefit from that move. And then when prices do start pumping up again and ratios start coming back down, even to a 1-to-3 ratio or 1-to-2 ratio, who knows if we're ever going to see that 1-to-2 ratio again. But even a 1-to-3 ratio, you still get to swap your PulseX to Pulse and actually end up accumulating a whole lot more Pulse in that situation. And it has a lot of fun. Stop ruining my plans. I just read the chat right there.
Nice picture, by the way.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's a phenomenal picture as well.
Shout out to Don in the chat. So here's your PulseX to Pulse ratio. Basically, the price is oscillating around this white dotted line. And that's important because this is basically the midpoint of what the original trading range was, which I have highlighted here with the yellow lines.
Okay.
So basically, when the beginning of PulseChain, PulseX broke down and went down like, I don't remember, I guess I could measure it for you guys. Let's see. From wick to wick, it did it minus 22% against PulseX. Went down against PLS. Well, then it pumped and it broke out to this wick high, retested that zone, and then ripped off that level and went closer to like 2-to-1, I think, up here roughly. Okay, so but ever since this peak here in May, PulseX has just been losing more and more value to PulseChain, which makes sense because it doesn't have a lot of utility on its own right now. And, you know, you want to preserve capital in times of a bear market, not lose value. So people have just been storing their value in PLS or stable coins, and that you can see that relationship like kind of in the chart here. But since we're at this like original, basically midpoint starting price again, it may be a good time to start thinking about allocating some back into PLSX because this ratio down here is closer to 4-to-1. So for every 1 PLS you give up, you get 4 PLSX back. And with any luck, you know, maybe one day we'll see another rip like this, and that could put you in a really good position to flip some of that back into PLS. And so if you zoom out now and you look at this daily chart on a really tiny little thing, you know, there's nothing saying that this thing can't just stay range bound inside of here for a very, very long time and create some sort of a pennant going into like, you know, 2025 or 2024.
Right.
And so you'd want to be able to capture these lows and take advantage of these big price pumps, appreciation. And the same thing applies actually for Inc. Because I think Inc and PLSX are kind of two sides of the same coin in a lot of ways.
Right.
Due to their buy and burn nature of PLSX, and then the fact that that only is a function of volume and trading and earning through the Inc farms. Said quickly, but moral of the story is that Inc and PLSX will likely do these kinds of moves together, and so it may be worth your time to start thinking about, you know, maybe getting a little bit of a bag of this stuff. I know Sami made a tweet today that there's literally been one guy that's been creating the sell-off on PLSX lately, like one major wallet just been dumping. He had like 60 billion. And he's just been dumping this whole trend down. And this is a falling wedge. So typically this is a bullish reversal pattern. And it's totally normal for this price to just keep grinding down this grind line and then get to the edge here and then pop out and then can make a big move. This is against the US dollar. So this is what you could expect, you know, maybe going into October, November this year. Potentially what you don't want to see is you don't want to see this breakdown, retest, and resume lower, going into no man's land and falling into the abyss.
Yeah, that's definitely what the pattern's shaping up at this point in time. I do like the bullish pennant that you got going on right now because whenever I looked at it, we broken the level of support that we were holding for quite a while. As a matter of fact, we kept bouncing off 5 zeros and a 9 for PulseX for many times. In fact, I think we did it 8 or 9 different times, and usually I would say you just retest 3 times typically, and then you figure out which way you go one way or another. And we finally broke out and we broke below it. So the next level that we do have is that 5 zeros and a 7, and that's kind of, and I don't really even count that as support. That's just kind of where it started. So, you know, I know we had the price dip. You can see the wick on the chart as well, which actually means that price did come back down. The price is able to pump back up above it. And from there, it actually went up a little bit higher. So I don't know if that's really holds as a level of support at that point. Would you count that as support if you were just kind of looking at
the only support I see on this chart right now is this trend line here.
Yep. Okay.
If you lose that, I mean, technically there's this action here, but so you'd look for a reaction there.
Yep.
But if somebody didn't come in heavy and push it back up like that, then it's in free fall.
Yeah.
This is the main support though, is this like kind of horizontal diagonal falling line.
Have you looked at the ratio between the HEX Pulse, even HEX on PulseChain against Pulse, and the HEX on PulseChain and PulseX? So I actually love this chart because this is something that I was looking at a while ago. Because this almost does the same thing here, where you can start flipping some of the HEX into Pulse and getting a nice little bag at this point in time, and then when prices end up coming back down, if it ever ends up happening, you can flip the Pulse to HEX and all that.
So from a technical level, it's almost a shoe-in that, you know, this thing's going to fall, and it's not going to just fall a little bit. It's going to go back to the breakout level here. And you can see the signal here is in the like the size of these candles is like relatively small and the same relative to this breakout level here, where you got some oversized bullish candles. So this was like more of like a movement that was made by a group of small group of players, or one player on his own. And you could just see it on the chart that there was a target that was wanting to be hit, and it hit that target, which was to break the 200 to 1 level, which is this green line.
Right.
And then you see price broke down, and they were able to get it back up again, but it broke down again. And so then this legacy trend line was it's really light. I don't think you could. Let me zoom in, or let me brighten it up for you a little bit. I'll make it a little bit thicker. Whoops. So this line here, you could see support, 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 grind line, support, but it didn't hold this time. So that broke down into like a bull flag sort of thing. And then, you know, when this type of thing happens, there's no signal that you can look for, because it's basically in no man's land. I mean, the next level to look for was this green 618 level. Right. It should have came down there then, but it didn't, because it got this little pennant formed on whatever time frame. And then it just exploded up to retest the highs, which was a good sign that there's believers in this and they want it to hold 200 to 1. But based on what I'm seeing here, unless Pulse turns around, this thing's going to try to come down here and test the 618, which was the previous breakout level, which is around 140 to 1 PLS.
So are you a believer of the things do get filled philosophy?
No, not at all.
Okay.
It doesn't have to. I'll give you an example. Like if we go over here to NVIDIA, this is one of those examples where I do think the gap's going to get filled because of, I don't know if anyone's been keeping up with what's been going on with NVIDIA and this CoreWeave company, but it's been an interesting storyline that's been developing. It sounds like they have some sort of closed circle Ponzi where like there's hedge funds that's giving money to this company, CoreWeave. CoreWeave's going and buying billions of dollars of equipment from NVIDIA. NVIDIA is posting huge revenues, huge returns, profits, and they're funneling that back in and creating more hype around AI. So it's a narrative and a market maker move all in one. And I just think like what we're seeing here on this is that NVIDIA is starting to roll over, and not that it has to play out this way, but that I think this is one of those gaps that was so like jaw dropping that we're going to go back and we're going to test at least the November 21 highs here on this red line on something like a head and shoulders pattern like this. Right. As it rounds over. We saw this pattern kind of play out on the dollar last year in October. So if you look at the dollar here, not quite the same, I suppose. It was just a blow off top. Yeah, I do see that. But kind of like this was more just a blow off top, but then it had 3 highs and 2 lower highs, and then the breakdown. So anyway, I guess it's not as that good of an example, but
No, I believe the Nvidia thing is a great example, especially being that, you know, you get the hype and everyone comes in and then you just get a massive pump and then all of a sudden it will probably come back incorrect and just refill in some of that gap. So I'm a big believer, not a big believer, but I do, when things start going down and things start looking like it's gonna end up trying to go down, you want to see how low it can get, and sometimes filling the gap is the easiest way to see what could be a potential low. To see where it might end up going and then go from there to at least make the next decision.
Yeah, so it does make sense that when things start to go into free fall like this, where there's no real structure anywhere, like yeah, it's going to come down to the breakout levels, or if you run a fib on it, it'll come back down to test key levels like the 618 Fibonacci. That's like a key level to look at. Sometimes you get a throwback to the 50, so that's would be right above the 618, but that's not a technical Fibonacci level. That's just something that traders use. And then the other
which one's that? The five you
just
said?
the point, yeah, that 50% retracement. And then the other chart that I think, like in relation to this PHEX pulse, would be the EHEX pulse chart, which is kind of holding up really well. So like this is your store of value, guys. Like EHEX is trending now for like the 5th time. It's trending up. That's why I got the ping pong paddles. It keeps bouncing off this, going try to flip 100 to 1 as support.
Okay.
Now I'm not saying that this has to hold forever, and then, you know, create support, but I'm just saying that the way it's been looking is you're getting some serious action on this, where like people sell it down, people buy it back. I mean, and you can really see that reflected in the ratio between the two hexes here. You know, PHEX has done a really good job of like holding 2 to 1. That's this yellow dotted line. So for every 2 EHEX you have, you get 1 PHEX. And right now it actually did like a double bottom, and now it's like kind of consolidating above that level. And so to me, I think the market wants to take it lower, but someone is supporting it, trying to make it 2 to 1. And props to them. I'm cool with them both being worth something. So, you know,
yeah, for sure. And you know, I like the 2 to 1 ratio, and I think if it ends up settling there for now, then so be it. And I think when we see the bull market come, it'll be a whole different ratio at that point in time as well. When it comes to ratio trading, so this is something that I had to learn myself, but what would be your mindset to have if you do end up making a trade through a ratio trade, for the idea that you're going to swap back further into the future? Like, what's the mindset that you might need to take on? Because that, in my opinion, I think it's longer term to go actually have a ratio trade done if you're going to play that cycle.
Like, yeah, Crispy, do you want to take that one, or do you want me to take that one? Because he's been doing a little bit of ratio trading himself.
Yeah, now I'm back on. I don't think I was listening fully to what you were asking. You're
just about ratio, just like time frame.
Yeah, the mindset that you have to go ratio trade. Yep.
You know, I'm going to pass on answering that question, other than my greatest ratio trading was during the launch of PulseChain. You know, because I
thought so too. And nowadays the ratios, I was that person who was able to get that y'all heard the 33,000 to 1 type deal. And now looking at the ratios, I'm like, you can get so much more for what you're looking at. So
yeah, maybe not for the same tokens that you did,
no,
right? But dollar value certainly for coming in,
right?
So I'm very much novice with the whole ratio type of thing, trying to figure out what to do. Now, of course, when we had the launch, I was prepared to go in, and I shoulda, coulda, woulda, you know, just said, hey, screw it, and just take all my pulse, you know, at 0 cost basis, and go into HEX. That would have been the move. With I did some of that, but I just kept exposure for everything. I just think going forward, what I've been doing and learning, you know, with Axis and some other stuff that's going on, it's just kind of like trying to figure this out. But I'm not. Again, I'm going to beg off, because I'm not. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I just know that buying bottoms and selling tops makes sense. But my practice has been to sell tops and buy tops and sell bottoms. So that's been my practice.
So yeah, I mean, just to kind of go and I'll come back to you on that one as well, Access. When you end up making a ratio trade for the purpose of what you're looking to do, so we'll say pulse to PulseX in this example, if you were to swap, do you go ahead and just mark something on the chart for yourself to know that when things end up getting back up into X ratio, that you end up swapping a portion back over? Do you just swap what you actually initially swapped in the beginning and hold on to the remainder? Do you go not all in, folks? I'm saying this again, not all in, but do you go something like, we'll say, I'll just use examples of numbers. We'll say 100 million pulse in this example to go get, we'll say 380 million pulse X right now. And you can knock that ratio out. And then when the ratios end up coming back, you can swap a portion of your pulse, we'll say 100 million pulse X, and then go back and get a portion of that pulse back when ratios come back.
Yeah, I think like first clearly identify the range highs and the range lows, and like now you have those levels like specifically on Pulse X and Pulse, you have that now, so it's not like, you know, shooting in the dark anymore because you have data to go by.
Right.
And it's a screaming buy to flip some of your PLS into PLSX at these levels. It just is, because the worst case is you get an even wider range, but then you're not bringing in your whole bag. The first time you bring it in, if you waited this whole time, you got to figure the time component. You probably waited 3.5 months for this ratio to come into your favor because you're waiting it for it to come to the range lows. And it's getting there. And so like for it to go even lower, well, if you only bring in like 5 or 10% on the first buy or the first swap, and then it goes lower, you can do another 5 or 10%. And it means that even that much more. And you basically DCing in on the range lows and DCing out on the range highs. And then there's like this other factor that is like, if an asset totally blows out the range, then now you have a whole other problem, because like you could get caught off sides there. And so that you always have to factor for that. So it's easier to play those trades inside of the ranges. And that's where like there's like a little more guesswork involved. But you know, because of the bonded liquidity of Pulse and PulseX, this is a really good one for teaching people, because they're both going to go up together over time. So like they're likely going to oscillate inside of a range, and you'll never be left holding the bag forever. But you will have to master patience and wait for the opportunity to swap back.
Yeah, and that's something that I think you mentioned, that I believe in the very beginning when I was first asking, was patience. What can y'all say about patience in crypto? Y'all have gone through a few cycles in crypto already at this point in time. You've seen the ebbs, the flows, and what happens. You see all the new shiny objects coming all around all the time, and you have to just let them keep on flying by. What do y'all have to say when it comes to patience? Because that's one of the things that people have a very tough time doing, especially nowadays. I mean, heck, we're the ADHD generation, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, you got freaking TikTok. I saw a video of a kid falling asleep doing the motion like they were swiping up on like a little Instagram thing or whatever, TikTok video or whatever, right? And they were swiping left and right. They were already on a dating site. They're a little kid, but no, they were just like swiping, and they were like full asleep. And it was this. It's funny that, you know, I saw this other kid, for example, and I'll go back to the actual question, was playing like Minecraft on one game and having Roblox on another, and then just going through and looking at TikTok videos. So he had 3 different apps and devices, kids flipping through the videos, playing the game, flipping through the video. And I'm like, damn, that's a multitasking kid if I've ever seen one. But that's just how they have to stay entertained. What do you have to say about the patience nowadays for peeps?
Yeah. Crypto is a get rich slowly game, and anyone that tells you otherwise doesn't understand how powerful longer term time frames really are in crypto. Most people come here for the quick gains and the life change, but those are the guys that we eat for fucking breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because like those guys are the carcasses that the Bitcoin chart stands on, looks back and is like, you know, we shit everybody else out. That's what created a price floor. You know, you don't want to be the guy who gets chopped up in the meat grinder.
Right.
You know, and so that longer term outlook and having that patience and letting the chart come to you, like paramount.
Paramount for sure.
We eat your bones, right? We eat your bones. Hey, listen, I think forget about crypto for a moment, just in general. Yeah, I think investing long term is how you get rich, and you get rich slowly. And you've got to make some good moves and have good foundation to build on it. And the same applies to crypto. And I know we're all like, we all want it to be tonight. I mean, I bought the lotto. I bought the Powerball ticket. I'd like it to be tonight. But second best is it happens sometimes. So, but I know I have to have a plan in place to do that, and that means longer time horizons. Like long time horizons, and in crypto that might mean being able to wait 8 years or 12
Hmm.
years. And I know that's super unpopular, but certainly at least you ought to be planning for the next cycle, because the big opportunity is not, like, even now there's still a limited window to get in before 25 and really hit it hard. But the kind of gains you can get potentially in 29 from now is like huge, right? Well, anyways, and I like to say practice makes perfect. And what I mean by that is you got to go through and do this stuff and develop the muscle memory of doing investments over time, and then be able to weather the volatility. And the only way you can do that is by experiencing it. Doesn't matter how much I tell you, because like everybody, we say this. You say it, Axis says it, I say it. Hey guys, crypto's volatile, right? Be ready for volatility. But nobody likes 90% down, right? And
Right.
until you see like your account, and that's just over a longer period of time. But if you're not ready for 50% dips, where you're going to go see, like, you got 7 figures or 6 figures, and hey, it just got cut in half last night.
Yep.
If you can't just move on from that, you're going to have a problem. But the only way you
Mm.
can really know how to handle that is to experience it. Like, you got to see your account go from 500K to 150K
Yep.
to be able to deal with it the next time. And you know what? It really does get easier, guys. It does.
It does.
It does.
For
It's
sure.
like I'm well practiced at losing.
So this is a
So
perfect example,
I
right?
keep going. I keep practicing, man.
Oh, Crispy, don't let him fool you.
No, I'm doing very well. But I mean, but I'm telling you, I've had to watch this happen. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is perfect because it really shows you how important time is and what it means to hold on, right? Like if assuming these stats are correct, this is a recent. I got this like in the last few days on Twitter.
Awesome.
It says that there's only 6 Bitcoin billionaires, 6 in the whole world. 6 of them made it that far. 22 billionaires in crypto in total, based on what I'm seeing here. Now, just side note, isn't it cool to think that potentially Richard is one of 22?
Yep.
Potentially.
Very cool.
Now, he didn't get there by trading, and I mean, yeah, he might have traded a small portion of his bag, but he didn't get there that way. He got there from buying and holding on for dear life and letting it work for him, right? And creating awesome products like HEX, right? But yeah, if you want to be one of these, 100 millionaire plus, or if you even want to be a millionaire, you're only going to be one out of 88,000 people in crypto. And that number will grow over time, right? 88,000 out of 8 billion. Yeah. That's crazy small, guys. Like,
very small.
And you're only going to get here if you can eat the volatility and keep, taking advantage of the opportunities on the cycle lows and the cycle highs.
That's a great chart. Yeah, that's actually very interesting. I'm probably going to take a screenshot in all reality because I actually like that chart quite a bit. So boom, just took a screenshot right there while we were chatting. But yeah, that's actually a really cool little information that you don't get to see too often, but it's good to actually get a better insight. Now, again, if it's real or if it's true or not, it still gives you a better understanding of insight that if someone had to wait that long to become one of the 6 or 22 people actually out there who are billionaires in crypto, they had to probably put forth 10 years to 12 years of waiting, 14 years of waiting. And that doesn't really seem that long in all reality. I know we talk about get rich slow and get rich quick and all that good stuff. Everyone's definition of time is different for everything. I think if you're able to get pretty rich within a span of 2 cycles, which is usually 8 years, that's pretty damn quick, y'all. And then you can usually get the generational wealth on the 3rd cycle, which is kind of what we end up coming up to with Ethereum right now. Mm-hmm. And that's where you actually end up getting that full generational wealth, becoming one of the top, 182 people, centimillionaires, or even just millionaire in general, and then be able to fully change your life at that point in time. So that's great information to share with people who definitely need to know.
Let's be clear. My goal is be billionaire. That's my goal. That's a stretch goal.
Yeah, for sure. I got the same goal as well.
Well, I'll be sitting on your yacht, only a centimillionaire, just crying to myself.
I didn't make it to $1 billion. I have to wait another 8 years. Oh, what a good conversation, guys. This has been a phenomenal conversation, for real. Thank you so much for coming on. But it's going to end the conversation with Axis and ChrispyMan, 2 HEX and PulseChain enthusiasts, analysts, and educators. I do want to thank them and thank y'all for coming in, sharing your insights and experiences with us, and of course being a part of this amazing community. Absolutely love the community. Hope everyone enjoyed the conversation as much as I did, learned something new and valuable. If you do want to learn more about HEX, you can always go check out their websites, accessalive.com or hexfire.io to check them out. You can definitely go learn some more information. Go find their YouTube channels, like, share, subscribe down in the description below. Follow them on Twitter and all the good stuff. And of course, come like, share, subscribe to myself as well. Thanks for watching ATX Crypto, where we focus on Richard Hart. My name's ATX, and hope everyone has fun. Stay safe, take it easy, and I will catch y'all in the next one.
Stay
Peace.
crispy, ATX.
See you guys.
Stay
Thanks.
crispy.